Chiquita craze, and I've been clean for 6 years. I wanted to share a little bit of my testimony, hoping that it could reach someone else who has been in the same situation or something similar to mine. I grew up in a broken home. My mom was the one that raised me, and there was drugs in and out of the home. As I got older, I had friends and, peer pressure. It was my choice to do what I did. They actually tried to talk me out of trying drugs, and they were all taking pain medicine, and everybody liked the way it made them feel, so I decided to try it. I was probably about 18, 19. So I tried it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it made me feel, so I wanted to try it again and just be cool and hang in with my friends. And after I tried it the second time, I liked it, and I continued to use pain medicine. A lot of my family members got prescription pain medicine, so it was easy for me to get to. And I would take their pain medicine, and I was just, to say my life was a mess would be an understatement. I was broken. I was just living crazy. Well, I met it was my boyfriend at the time, which is now my husband, Ryan, and he was actually selling drugs. So that was something else for me to get into, and we did drugs together. We did a lot of crazy things. I got with him in 2006. I got pregnant, and we had a daughter in 2008. Her name is Rihanna. I was using through my whole pregnancy. After that, it was hard for me to provide for her at times, because I actually always made sure she had her, food and everything, so I thought I was a great mother. But in reality, she was hurting. She could tell something was wrong, because if I didn't have medicine, I didn't want to play with her, and she was always used to me interacting with her and doing things with her that I didn't do when I didn't have medicine. I was just a bad mom who I thought I was great, and I was a bad girlfriend. I always yelled and fought with my husband. My life was just a mess. And Ryan was hit by a train in 2009, and then I found out I was pregnant with my second child, Eva, and I was using pain medicine then as well. And so when I had her in 2010, I had to give them to my mother-in-law or let them go in state's custody. And my life was really broken then, to live without your kids. And I just kept self-medicating to try to not feel the pain and not even realize that, when I woke up the next day, I was feeling the same way, and I just kept self-medicating. And I had to take classes to try to get them back, and I kept telling myself I was doing it for them, and every time I tried to do it for them, I failed every single time. And I knew doing it for them was going to make me try harder, and I was going to get them back, but I was wrong. I didn't realize I needed to do it for myself, and I needed God's help. I couldn't do it on my own, and I was so close to losing them for good. And I knew that was getting ready to happen, so one day I started calling all kind of rehabs, trying to get in somewhere, and I finally found one, and they told me, they would pay for most of it, and my insurance would, and so I got in there, and it was 2011 of March. I went in, and I was there for a whole month, and that's when I got in there, and I realized, that life was still going on without me, and I was in so much pain because my child, when I would go to see her, she would cry for me, and I'd have to turn my back and walk from her. And I knew she was in a safe Christian home, but I knew she probably lay down at night thinking I didn't love her anymore. There was times I was missing out, I didn't get to bond with my youngest child, and that hurt more than anything. So I was in rehab and I was realizing all this, that's when I got down and I asked God, please help me. I can't do this anymore. I'm trying on my own and I'm not getting anywhere and I really need your help. That's when everything changed. I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders and I knew right then everything was going to be okay. I feel like sometimes I don't know why. I wasn't really never upset with God, but I always wondered why. Why did my kids have to be taken? They had a home, they were fed, they had clothes, they had nice clothes, and I had friends running around doing things worse than me and still had their children. And I just didn't understand, and I always tell myself, you know, God had a calling for me. And whether I wanted to see it or not, He had a calling for my life, and maybe that was the only way that I was going to actually humble myself to ask Him to help me, because nothing else seemed to work. And so sometimes it makes me feel better to think, you know, that's why everything happened to me that it did. He had a calling for my life, and I needed to stop running from what He had planned for me. Ever since I got out in 2011, I still had core, and yeah, I got myself a job. I got myself my first car. I started going to church, started trying to be around more positive people and who wanted better for my life. I prayed all the time. My kids finally got to come home, and that was the happiest moment of my life, I think, having my kids back home with me. Since then, God has blessed me with so much. We do have hard times in our family, but I have peace and comfort now that, you know, I've got God in my life, and I've asked for His help, and He's helping me. I feel every day He helps me in some kind of way with something. I had a child, a little boy that just passed away May 18th of 2016, and my family, we were so upset. My kids were upset, but for some reason I had peace and understanding, and I know all along that was God. God was with me through that whole thing, telling me, you know, everything's going to be okay, and you know, there was peace. I had so much peace, and I know God works. That's how I know God works in my life daily. It's I just can't describe all the stuff He's done for me. It's been so much. My name is Chiquita, and this is my story.